Hello. Welcome to another episode of Jerks at Work. We're moving on to episode 3. I hope you checked out episodes 1 and 2. I think they turned out great. We got some very good feedback on those. But today, as promised, we're moving on to the in-crowd leader. I've worked with these people, actually, directly. And if you look at this list of shows we're going to do, and there are other types of jerks at work we may add to this list, but I've worked with every one of them. And I've worked with in-crowd leaders. As a matter of fact, at one company relatively early in my career, I was in an in-crowd. And, one of the perks was you got to hang out with the boss in the in-crowd at his office at the end of the day. And there's always some kind of party going on, some drinking or whatever. And one day, this guy, Roger, stopped by. He was working late and knocked on the door because he knew we were in there. And the boss said, go away. You're not part of the in-crowd. Actually, he actually said that. And, that was my first time I saw it, but the in-crowd leader is a real kind of personality. He was not a real jerk. He was a pretty good guy, but that was a bad, bad habit he had. He wanted to be the in-crowd leader. But anyway, as Terry and I began to go through this, Terry is a certified culture engineer, has encountered a lot of these personality types. I founded People Productive and Boardroom Edge and was a turnaround CIO. So I've seen so many of these different personalities. And today we're going to dig into this in-crowd leader. And so, you can spot these people. We'll tell you how to spot them, how to handle them, what to do, what not to do. What do you do if you're part of the in-crowd? What if you're not? Stay tuned. We got a great episode here. But they govern by giving access. They govern through belonging, that you can be part of this in-crowd. And if you're part of the in-crowd, you get different perks. And you get proximity, you may get promotions, you're likely to get them. And you'll be very isolated if you're not. As you can see in this picture, we have the in-crowd over here on the left and the poor person who's not in the in-crowd, but an outsider. And so that's who they are. And you can see them. They're very easy to spot.
Yeah, this is one of those ones that really erodes away at employee engagement. So when people feel like they are not going to get ahead because they're not in the crowd, they're not, getting some of the perks that the people that are in the in crowd are getting, when they feel like the work that I'm doing is not being rewarded, I'm not being judged based on my work, but I'm being left out because I'm not in the clique. This is one of the best ways if you want to erode away your engagement and you want to make people quit. This is a great way to do it.
Oh, this is a quick way to create people exiting the place. No doubt about it.
Absolutely.
But this is how you spot them, right? And so look, they always have this inner circle, and you'll see it at the meetings. They'll be sitting closer to the person at the meeting, same faces. He'll be asking them questions, not you. And you always have that little clique in the meeting. No doubt about it.
Yeah, they're always having little sidebar conversations while the whole meeting is going on. They're leaving people out of the discussion that should be included in the discussion. It's one of those things where the information is just not flowing properly. It's not flowing to the people that really need to have the information. And it's staying in that little circle of insiders where they always know things before everybody else. And sometimes the information stays with them in a way that people that are outside, they're really left out. And they find out things that they should have known earlier. They find out after the decision has been made. So you really have to be careful with this because it can bring your projects to a halt. Your delivery will just go down the toilet because you're not flowing information the way that it needs to effectively in the organization, with these in crowds kind of hoarding information and keeping everything to themselves.
These are really very unproductive personality types and unproductive leaders. They destroy the motivation and drive of a lot of people in the organization. They're very bad. And, it becomes obvious for everybody because they use these perks as like a social currency. Like if a VIP is coming through from corporate headquarters, they'll introduce them to the in crowd, to certain people, and other people will be left out. And they'll see that those same people always get invited to maybe go out for coffee, drinks, dinner, whatever it might be. They meet the VIPs. So it's all selectively distributed, all these perks, no doubt about it.
Yeah. The other thing about this, people need to feel that sense of belonging. We've done a whole series on belonging and how
Yeah,
important
great
it is in the
series.
organization. The crazy part about these cliques is you're only in the clique as long as you're loyal. The minute you do something that the clique leader or the ringleader doesn't like, you're out and you're not going to get back in. So you don't want to challenge the circle or anything like that if you're trying to stay in this clique, because that's going to get you kicked right out. And that belonging that you feel is really not real belonging. It's just kind of, as long as you do what I want you to do, then you can stay in the clique. But otherwise, you're out. And so when you find people that get kind of ostracized by a group and nobody wants to explain why they're being ostracized, they're being treated differently, they're being left out, it's because they've been in that clique and somebody got angry by something they did and now they're on the outskirts of it.
Yeah.
They're on that circle of, with everybody else that's not in the clique.
Yeah, I always made it through competence, and there was a clique I remember very clearly I could have gotten into, and they always had like the Wednesday night, go out, stay out late, drinking, hit some club or whatever. And I'm like, I'm not doing that. I'm just not doing it. And I really wasn't in the clique, but they needed me. So it didn't really matter. I was the guy getting the stuff done. But you have to be loyal to that clique, and you got to do stuff sometimes you don't want to do if you want to stay part of it. That's just the way it goes down.
Yeah.
And outsiders just feel the sense of exclusion. Even when nothing is ever said, they see it. Humans are just smart. They pick up on everything. There's no doubt about it. They can feel this.
Yeah. And the last one here, where their influence exceeds their title, this is where you've got people that are not on the org chart in a place of power, but they're actually wielding quite a bit of power just because of
we've all seen
who
that,
they're
right?
related to or who they're in the clique with. They're wielding all this power in these positions to make decisions where they shouldn't be, really, because they're not in that position. They're not in that particular role. They're just there because they're friends with the boss, or they're, the boss's son or the boss's daughter. And so they're in these positions of power and in these places of influence, but they don't really have the authority to make some of the decisions that they're making.
No, and you get these personality types that want to feel bigger than who they really are. And the problem with this type of operation is that when you give people power, they use it. And some of these people abuse that power.
Yeah.
And we've seen that. And they try to force their way into situations where really they just shouldn't be exercising authority in those situations. And they do anyway because they know they're covered. They got air cover.
Yeah. The bottom line is this group is very toxic. It's toxic to your entire organization. And so you really do have to deal with this. And you cannot be this leader that is only dealing with his little select few or her select few. You really have to make sure that people are included, and you want that diversity of thought, people that don't always agree with you, people that see things from a different perspective. That's where you have the most valuable insights.
Yeah.
When people are bringing their whole self to work and they're able to share their thoughts and opinions without feeling like, oh, I'm not in the crowd, so I can't participate.
Oh, yeah, very destructive. And, their power source is social currency. They have that select group that gets the tickets, the box seats at the arena, because they happen to be available. It's always the same people, not necessarily the high performers, just the people who are really good suck-ups. And they're very good at playing that role. And so that's the social currency. That's one of the ways they maintain their power.
Yeah. Yeah. And we just talked about this one a little bit about proximity to influence, where they're just in the room in conversations that they really should not be a part of because they don't have that level in the corporation. And so they shouldn't be in there making decisions or even becoming aware of things that they shouldn't have knowledge of.
Yeah, yeah. And even, sometimes it's people on the org chart who should be there that aren't because that in crowd is doing it.
Right.
And, loyalty, it's built through inclusions, perks, insider status, no doubt about it. So it's fake belonging. It's all manufactured. It's not a true sense of belonging at all.
Right. And you'll find those people very, very sensitive, very insecure.
Yeah.
That insecurity is going to play out in people being ostracized, people being kicked out of the group over the simplest things. Those people that walk around feeling like that, that's a high level of stress.
Yeah.
And so you definitely don't want to have people like that. And you don't want to have this selective information flow. This is just, I'm telling you, it's going to really bring your projects to a halt, where you have people that are not passing information to everyone, where they're only giving a select few their early access, or you have people that just are left in the dark completely.
Oh yeah, there's a reorg coming
about things where they really should be included in decision making and they're not. This is a surefire way to kill a project and to run up project expense, because you have to do a whole lot of rework because the right people weren't brought to the table. You don't have the right people making the decisions that need to be made. You're not sharing all the information. You're not having that good flow of communication. All of those things are just bring your project to a grinding halt.
Right. Well, it curtails communication, but the other side of this information thing is that, people get power from it because they kind of are a go-to person, all the whispers in the hallway. Oh, the reorg is coming. Oh, go talk to so-and-so. They're connected. They must have inside information. So these people get some status from having this inside information, which is why they want to be part of that early intel. And people being in feels better than being nobody. And unfortunately, sometimes these are nobodies. This is how they become somebody. And I think people who are really competent, their ambition and drive is to make it on their own, not to be dependent on other people. You find them to be more independent, and they'll play along only to a degree, because it's convenient to do so.
Yeah.
So how do you handle these people? And you'll notice there's two sides to this. If you're an insider, what do you do? And if you're an outsider, what should you do? So how do you handle these situations? Because they're easy to spot. And if you're an insider, you want to use influence, right? You want to leverage access to shape outcomes without copying that clique behavior. You don't want to, start repeating this stuff.
Yeah. You definitely want to share information. You want to break those bottlenecks without violating trust, but you do need to make sure that the right people have the right information, so that as a whole, the team is successful, and not just the clique, not just the select few.
Yeah, and you got to be careful, because if you're in the clique and you get information that's not supposed to be shared, you got to be very careful. You got to protect that trust.
Yeah.
And, you want to, extend micro access to others without violating the norms of the group, right? Try to bring other people in. Don't just join that clique and, obnoxiously be part of it. Try to build, more relationships outside of it. And, outsiders, they should be doing a set of things too.
Yeah. Those alternate alliances, you absolutely don't have to just stick with those that are in the clique. You can actually find influence and really build your own alliances with people who have been left out. And that sometimes can be more powerful, because you're able to find those people that have information, that have access, that are willing to share and collaborate across teams. And so you can really build a productive network by just gathering people together and bringing everybody to the table together.
Yeah. And you're always capable of asking why. If you weren't part of the decision-making process, you could say, hey, I'd like to understand what's behind this. Not in an obnoxious way, but in a probing, productive way. And you should try to ask why, just so you understand where it's coming from. Doesn't mean they're making bad decisions, but you have a right to know why. No question about it.
Yeah. And the last one is keeping emotion out of it. That exclusion and being left out really feels personal. It feels like a personal attack, but most often it's really not about you. It's about that group. It's about that clique. that has some social equity that they're building and trying to desperately hold on to, and they can't afford to bring you into the circle. So it's really not a personal thing. It's just a bad work performance by those that are in that group.
Yeah. And it's never about you. I mean, I think that's the rule, Terry. You nailed it. It's always about them.
Yeah.
They're being jerks at work, and it has nothing to do with you. And you got to realize that right away, that you're not a jerk at work, they are. And what shouldn't you do? If you're an insider, look, don't be the mini me. Don't try to imitate that boss and create your own cliques, because that's a mistake. It's going to shrink your credibility. It's going to hurt your career. These people don't last. There's no question about it. So, just don't become one of them.
Yeah. Share information. Don't hoard things, access, perks. That is just a breeding ground for resentment, where people will just really start to feel like it doesn't matter what they do, they're not going to be rewarded. You don't want to join that crowd of making sure that people don't get what they deserve, and that you withhold perks from them, you withhold information from them. You really don't want to do that. So make sure you're opening up access and you're giving people the things that they need to be successful.
Yeah. And look, you can always share the stuff you get. I got master's tickets one year as a CIO, Fortune 250 CIO. One of the perks was I ended up getting master's tickets, but I shared it with one of the managers who worked for me that just was Mr. Golf. He was in a club, he golfed all the time, he loved it. And you could certainly share the perks. If you get tickets because you're part of this group, you might say, hey, so-and-so loves this team, works for me, they're doing a great job, I'm going to share these with them. Don't hoard it, share it. People really appreciate it. And don't be blindly loyal. These people fail. Build broad credibility. You got to survive on your own, not through this network. No way.
Yeah, because eventually the network breaks down, right?
They don't
it's not going to last forever. So you want to make sure you have your own network. You have your own group that you have kind of built some credibility with, and that people know you across the board and not just within the clique.
Yeah, it's a very unproductive leadership style. And so they're not going to make a big impact. They're going to eventually get found out and they're going to fail. And if you're an outsider, just don't demand inclusion. Do your job, do a good job, work hard, and get by on your own credibility. It's you and how you perform that matters ultimately, not being part of this phony group.
Yeah. And remember, it's not about you. So don't bring your emotions in it and don't personalize it. This is a system and it's political. Yeah. So don't think that it's some shortcoming or lack that you have. It's really not a lack on your part. It's a lack on the part of those that are playing this game.
Yeah. And whatever you do, don't try to take them on. Just let them go fail on their own. You don't have to take them on. There's nothing, you're not going to gain anything out of it. So what kind of damage do they really create? Because they're very bad leadership style, very costly. Systemically, they become an informal power structure. There is a power structure in place because people have performed and earned their way in. So it's really damaging to short circuit the way things should be running.
Yeah. When you have that information that is rationed and traded, like, you're playing a game of poker or something, just like hoarding information, it really is such a destructive thing that breaks down the fabric of your culture. And that's really what this boils down to. When you get that information blockage, it is really eroding the culture of your organization.
Yeah. We did a short version of this series called People Unproductive, probably 3 years ago. And we went over, a much smaller list of these personality types. But these are really highly unproductive people, because when you optimize decisions for belonging, not for doing the right thing, you immediately are unproductive. And these are highly unproductive leaders and individuals.
Yeah. When you've got that human damage that happens where, people start to withdraw, they disengage, they exit quietly, you start to see people leaving the company and nobody wants to talk about why they're gone, or they don't want to say anything, where they feel like they're not psychologically safe.
Oh yeah, it's terrible.
That is just a recipe for a disaster.
Yeah, and on the human damage side, the
Yeah,
high performers get crowded out, not promoted. So you're
yeah,
going to end up losing your best people,
yeah,
right? Outsiders withdraw, disengage, exit quietly. This is exactly what happens.
yeah. When that resentment starts to set in because people feel like there's just been one injustice after the other, it really causes people to withdraw and to shut down. And eventually they're going to leave because they
Yeah.
don't feel safe there.
Well, and they're going to be present but not productive. They're going to do what they have to do, but really no more. So the discretionary effort completely goes away.
Yeah.
And performance and collaboration shrinks to the circle's boundaries, right? Creativity and dissent vanish, becomes too risky. And you could see the dominoes coming down, KPIs start to get impacted, innovation stalls. It's a mess.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, these leaders fail. There's no question about it.
No question about it. It's just too risky. Bottom
Yeah.
line is it's eroding away at your culture. It's contaminating your entire work product that you're trying to produce. It's just really not worth the cost.
No. And so we're moving on to another really good episode. Next week, we get to episode 4, the low empathy leader, who could care less about you. They've got a complete emotional blinders on. They don't have any EQ. It's all about the work and the tasks and the opportunities. We've all seen these people for sure. And so they're really damaging too. So, we have another episode every Wednesday at 3 o'clock. If you can, just remember to follow the People Productive channel. It's on YouTube. You can go to People Productive on LinkedIn. You could you could follow me. I post all the episodes. I repost them under me as well. And we hope you could join us because, this is, I think, just such a great series. It really is so powerful. But,
Yes.
join us if you can every Wednesday, 3 o'clock. We'll be here next week.
Yes. Bye for now.